Let the coaching bidding wars begin. USC's got 10 million, LSU's got 12 million, Florida's got 14 million, USC's got 15 million, LSU's got 16 million, Florida's got 17 million. Sold! Or is it sold? We don't know, but we shall find out. Who's going to win in the bidding wars for all these coaching positions that are open? Will USC win the bidding war? Will it be LSU? Will it be Florida? Let's find out. Well, how's it going out today, boys and girls in sporting land? This is JPC, and today, as you know, we got a bidding war going on for USC, LSU, and the Florida Gators, in my opinion. Those are the three biggest jobs out there on the market as the auctioneers kick it off as we try to find out who's going to get all these jobs in college football. That's right. And this is the home of the Common Joe and the Common Sally. And no, you more so than all those media talking heads. And I'm JPC. I am the outlaw of college football. And now let's kick this thing off. USC versus LSU versus Florida. To me, those are the three biggest coaching vacancies out there. Never have I seen so many historically great programs with multiple national championships have job openings all at the same time. The question is, who's going to get what and who's not going to get what? Is USC going to be able to get a great candidate with some of the restrictions that they got and some of the behind-the-scenes political BS that they have to go through and all the hoops they have to go through at USC now with all the climate, the way the climate is politically out there, it's sort of a hindrance to everything from finances to sports. USC, I think, get a great coach, but they're going to have to get one that's going to come in there and understand that they're going to have to energize that USC fan base. The USC fan base, to me, has been dead for quite some time, ever since Pete Carroll picked up sticks and left and went to Seattle and left a big-ass mess. Him and old Eddie Ogre left a big old mess there at USC, and ever since then, they haven't been the same. The main thing to do is to get a candidate with a lot of energy that can come in there and energize that fan base. Now, I know a lot of people were talking about Lane Kiffin going back to USC, but I just think there's been too much bad blood and burned bridges between the two for them to reconcile their differences. Now, I could be wrong, and Lane Kiffin may be back on the tarmac this time as a rehired coach. So, is USC going to go after the same candidates as LSU and Florida? They may go after some of the same, but I have a feeling that USC may look at coaches that are maybe closer geographically speaking. Kyle Whittingham is a guy who has brought Utah up. I mean, he took over after Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer brought him up a little bit, but he took Utah to the bigger heights. Actually took them from being a non-Power 5 school to being a Power 5 school and competing for the Pac-12 title year in and year out. May not win it, but he competes for it up until the last couple of weeks of the year. Every year he's got Utah in the running. This year, pretty good team. 7-3, 8-3, something like that. Just beat number 3 Oregon. I think that might have put a feather in his cap that may attract the attention of USC. Now, LSU could go after Kyle Whittingham as well, but I think that's a long shot for them. To me, if USC wants to not have to compete directly with Florida and LSU for the likes of Lane Kiffin and maybe Matt Campbell and James Franklin and Billy Napier, just to name a few, I think they'd be wise to go after Kyle Whittingham. Now, if they do that, if they get Kyle Whittingham, I'll say that they ended up making out pretty good in this auction for a new head coach amongst all these formerly historical powerhouse national championship programs. Then you have LSU, who has been somewhat of a mess ever since, honestly, they let go of Les Miles. Now, Ed Orgeron did come in and win a national championship, but we all saw what Ed was before the national title without Dave Aranda and without um, the two Joes, Joe Burrow and Joe Brady. It just happened that he was there, and he would just happen to be at the helm, in my opinion. It's sort of like the Gene Chizik situation with Cam Newton, all over again. All those guys left, and it went back and reverted back to what Eddie Ogre is normally, just as he was when he was at Ole Miss, and he only won 3 or 4 games a year. So LSU, they were on the block first, really. Maybe USC actually was ahead of them a couple of weeks. But LSU has been mentioned with so many big name candidates, from Jimbo Fisher to Matt Campbell to James Franklin to numerous, Mel Tucker, all these guys. But now it's like Jimbo Fisher and Mel Tucker have pretty much struck down the idea that they're leaving. So Lane Kiffin once again comes into the mix here. And then you have Billy Napier. Those two head coaches could be in the middle of a bidding war between all three of these, because USC might just try to talk Lane into coming back. But Florida is the wild card now. Florida comes in. Florida has just as much swag as those two. Florida has won 3 national championships overall, 1 under Spurrier and 2 under Urban Meyer. So they come in now, and it's like a whole new ball game. Now Billy Napier and Lane Kiffin are on the block for that job. So the thing is there going to be a bidding war between specifically LSU and Florida at this point for Lane Kiffin or Billy Napier? And then there's that one out-of-the-box candidate that I mentioned in my last podcast right before Dan Mullen got fired. I would like to say I called that ahead of time, pat myself on the back a little bit. But in my opinion, Florida may not go after either one of those two candidates. There is a possibility, in my opinion, that they may try to lure Bob Stoops out of retirement. And they may also go after Mark Stoops, who's brought Kentucky up and beat Florida 2 out of 4 years, which Kentucky hadn't beat Florida in almost 31 years before Mark Stoops arrived. So maybe they want to take Mark Stoops off of Kentucky's hands. That way he's not beating them anymore. He's actually helping them win, right? But to me, it's going to come down to Billy Napier, Lane Kiffin, and maybe Bob Stoops as far as Steve Strickland in Florida go. And I'm just very interested to see who would win a bidding war. We'll never know exactly who won the bidding war, because what will probably happen is Lane Kiffin will probably decide to either go to LSU or Florida. Excuse me. Maybe even Miami. Now, we forget about Miami. Forgot all about Miami. Miami is a 5-time national champion. So we've got Miami on the block too, possibly. Now, they haven't fired the coach yet, but there's been a rumor going around that they may be about to part way with Manny Diaz. But that hasn't happened yet, and so that's why I really didn't put Miami much into this discussion. But if it came down to LSU or Florida for Lane Kiffin, who would you choose? If you were Lane Kiffin, if the common Joe and common Sally in the know was Lane Kiffin, and Florida and LSU both came to you and offered you a job, which job would be considered a better job in your opinion? Now, we was having that discussion before about the better job, LSU or USC. And that basically panned out to me that it was LSU, because LSU is more apt to put money into it. They got a rabid fan base already that's real supportive. And LSU has a state unto itself to recruit unto. Doesn't have much competition other than outside the state, with Alabama and maybe Texas A&M and Oklahoma and Texas coming in, maybe taking a few recruits. But as far as an in-state rival or an in-state a team that could actually compete with them. They don't have that. So to me, I always thought the LSU job was probably a better job than the USC job. Plus, like I said, USC has to deal with all that political garbage out there that interferes with stuff that it shouldn't interfere with. But Florida is a different animal. Florida has just as much cachet as LSU. But in the end, once again, I'm going to say that the LSU job is a better job than any of the jobs, because the fan base, to me, is a little more consistent and supportive at LSU than either Florida or USC. And there's some kind of weirdness going on at Florida, because I know that Steve Spurrier left and went to the Washington Redskins, and he said that's why he left, because he wanted to go try the NFL, which may have been true. But there was also some behind-the-scenes stuff that pushed Steve Spurrier out. He talked about it a little bit, but didn't really expound on it. But there's something there in the administration to where they don't really want to support these guys and give them the facilities and the money for assistance that they should. So to me, in the end, if there's a bidding war for one particular candidate, whether it be Lane Kiffin, whether it be Billy Napier, or even Bob Stoops, I think in the end, LSU is going to have the pick of the litter. And then Florida is probably going to snag whomever LSU didn't snag. In my opinion, I think LSU is probably, at this point, going to go after Lane Kiffin or Billy Napier. And if Florida is smart, they could do the same thing as USC and pursue a candidate that maybe LSU is not thinking about and try to lure Bob Stoops out of retirement. And that's all I got to say about that. You guys and gals tell me who you think, who's going to win the bidding wars, who's going to win the coaching bidding wars between USC, Florida, and LSU, and possibly Miami. And with that, I'm going to get off here. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams.